As we approach the season finale of Helluva, we're looking back at older episodes of the show, seeing what new information we can get from them with what we now know, and look back at other little details that we may have missed or didn't really get a chance to discuss, and today we're doing episode 5. But before we get into all that, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Likewise. Cartoons are a bit of a niche, and it's really hard for me to figure out what cartoons I should be watching next. But thanks to Likewise, I don't have to worry about that anymore. You start by putting in examples of all the different things that you love, and you get recommendations for what to watch or read next based on what other people enjoyed in addition to the shows you picked with daily recommendations, with a special tab that holds all the shows you've saved to watch later so you don't forget. You can also create your own list of great curated shows for others to check out and see what other people with similar interests are starting to watch in the community tab, giving you quicker insights into what new shows to watch next. It's also great for finding new books, with an amazing algorithm for giving me new, mind-bending recommendations and niche history, as that tends to be my favorite. Likewise is 100% free, so there's no reason not to try it. Use the link in the description as well as in the pinned comment down below to download it for yourself, and don't forget to add me there. I'm at Deepcut. Come find me so you can see all the great cartoons that I love and I can learn more about what you guys like. And now, on to the video. This episode is interesting because there's one tiny detail that really spans the entire episode that was so subtle I didn't even notice it on my own, and only saw it after someone on Discord had pointed it out to me. In previous episodes, Blitz walked around with quite a bit of a hunch, adding back to his Velociraptor aesthetic. This hunch is so integral to his character that it was even included in the rough draft design of him that appeared in the background of the Hazbin Hotel pilot. But in this episode, we see Blitz walking around straight up quite a bit, not 100% through the episode, but more noticeably after he gets talked up by Stryker and Millie's parents. There's a moment where he realizes that other people are genuinely impressed with him for what he has done with his business, and that makes his posture change. This seems to say that part of Blitz's posture is self-imposed, that despite how prideful he may sound, he's holding himself in a way that says he is scared of how people view him, even when he's talking down to people like he so often does with Moxie. It's interesting that the Helluva animation team would put such an interesting little detail into the show that just adds another layer to the story they're trying to tell, another layer to Blitz's little psychosis, especially when you consider how hunched over he becomes when Stolas is openly flirting with him later in the episode. The episode follows the IMP gang into the Wrath Ring, where we get to meet Millie's family. One thing this episode really highlighted was just how different Moxie was from both Millie and her family, in regards to how tough he is. While Millie seems to be an assassin that is well trained for just about any situation, Moxie's focus seems to be much more on guns, allowing him to snipe their targets with ease, but hand-to-hand combat he struggles with, just as he does with any sort of physical struggle that seems to come natural to all the other imps, as we can see in the Pain games. I don't think that Moxie is weaker than most imps in the species, but rather that he is weaker than these particularly rural imps, and that wherever Moxie is from, he would be seen as a relatively normal imp as far as physical prowess goes. From the Veroska band t-shirt that was sold at the Helluva store, we can see that Veroska had a stop in a city called Los Satanio, and this is where I believe Moxie was originally from, a place still in the Wrath Ring, but an environment that was more urban, with a lot less expected of imps in terms of physical activity. As the name implies, Satan likely lives in that city as well, which may be why Moxie uses his name with a sense of reverence that the others do not. One topic of heavy debate in the fandom right now is whether or not imps are fireproof, as it plays a role in some of the other theories floating around, and in episode 1, Blitz and Millie were entirely unaffected by flames. This led many fans to believe that imps are fireproof. However, in this episode, we are told about flaming twisters existing in a part of the Wrath Ring, with implications that they can kill imps. This leads me to believe that imps can be burnt by fire in hell, but not from fire on Earth in particular, which makes sense considering Blitz specifically said your fire can't hurt us when Martha tried to burn them to death, not fire can't hurt us. This episode is most famous for introducing us to Stryker, who is very different from the other imps. We do not see any single white spots on him, but rather his entire complexion is more orange than everyone else's. This led some fans to speculate that he is not from the Wrath Ring, and when taking into account his snake-like appearance, many fans thought he might be from the Envy Ring, as that ring is ruled over by the demon prince Leviathan, who is well known as a biblical sea monster. While I do believe that the species of imps as a whole came from the Wrath Ring first, we know that they exist throughout all the 7 rings of hell in the modern age, and from what we see in the Less Ring, which featured taller imps with wings, they were spread out enough to evolve different traits. However, Stryker's entire character is a Western cowboy stereotype, and it wouldn't make sense for him to be from a ring that doesn't have a country Western theme to it. And the Envy Ring is theorized to be more of an ocean habitat, not just because of Leviathan being a sea serpent, but because of aquatic-themed demons seen in the background elsewhere that would make sense to be from there as well. So while I think there may be some interesting reason behind his snake appearance and pale complexion, it doesn't seem to be that he is from somewhere other than the Wrath Ring as far as I can tell. In the most recent episode of Helluva Boss, Stolas was concerned when he realized that he was at a club where Asmodeus might be, and because Asmodeus ended up talking about his relationship with Blitz, it would seem that he was afraid of what Asmodeus would find out. An interesting change from here in episode 5, where Stolas is happy to openly flirt with Blitz in front of entire audiences. While Stolas may have just felt safe since imps are of low importance in the social hierarchy, it's hard to imagine he wasn't worried about his relationship being exposed to the public here if it just ended up in the news covering him on his annual duties. In the 2022 trailer for Helluva Boss, after all, we see that Fizzaroli reads a newspaper exposing him and Asmodeus being affectionate with each other, so it's interesting that Stolas wasn't worried about something like that happening to him here. One thing I never noticed until just now was that one of Millie's siblings has this very demonic scar on him, one that looks like it was inflicted on purpose as a makeshift tattoo, as opposed to an accidental injury. At first glance, it would be easy to just write it off as a symbol representing Satan, but it more closely resembles the head of a demon known as Baphomet, who isn't part of the Peter Binsfield classification of the Seven Princes of Hell, nor the Ars Goetia that Stolas is from, and instead comes from 1098 AD, with a bit of a weird history on how he became something of a demonic character. Baphomet does seem to exist within the show even beyond this tattoo, as episode 7 introduced us to candle-headed demons that seem to be modeled after him. I had attributed this design to looking like Belphegor previously, but the candles definitely make it clear that they are modeled after Baphomet. It is interesting that an imp would have this as a tattoo, and I wonder what the in-world meaning of it may be. This episode introduced most fans to the concept of angelic weapons, which had only been previously alluded to in the Hazbin Hotel pilot outside of Vizipop's interviews. One scene that caused a lot of debate among fans was the one where Stryker tries to convince Blitz to join him in killing Stolas and hunting other elites, which Blitz seems to seriously consider after Stryker goes on about how much Blitz deserves better than what their oppressive society, run by the elites like Stolas, gives him, and it calls into question not just if Blitz agrees with Stryker, but whether or not he is developing sincere feelings for him as well. While I don't think Blitz was about to decide to kill Stolas, I think he knew Stryker was coming from a place of truth, something we see in episode 7 when Blitz realizes that Stolas feels a little bit of shame about their arrangement. As far as love goes, I don't think Blitz knew him well enough to develop real feelings for Stryker, but there was definitely the beginnings of something romantic there, and in episode 6 this seems to be confirmed when Stryker joins Varasica and Stolas in Blitz's hallucination about his previous relationships, which also included Fizzaroli, who seemed to have something of a romantic relationship with Blitz before finding fame as well. The angelic weapons are special in that they are the only thing that can kill an immortal sinner, as well as demons like Stolas, as Stryker intends to use his angelic gun to assassinate him in this episode. In the end, Stryker has to leave his gun behind, but we see that he has another, smaller angelic gun that we will likely see him using in future episodes. The fate of the first gun is currently unknown, but I like to imagine that the IMP gang took it with them before anyone else in town could even find out about it. Blitz had noted that a lot of the people they are sent out to kill could end up in hell, but they might one day want to come for the IMP gang for revenge for killing them. It would make sense that Blitz would want to have this only weapon capable of killing a sinner in case they ever came after him or his crew. That way he could defend himself and his employees. This was all the cool stuff I was able to find while looking back at episode 5 of Helluva Boss, but please let me know anything else you think I might have missed in a comment down below. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of today's video, likewise. All the information you need for that is in the pinned comment down below. See you next time!